Should foster carers get the same employment rights as other council employees? A couple in Glasgow who've been working as foster carers for 6 years have won the right to be classed as employees at an employment tribunal. Their skills are very specialised and the judgment would not apply to most foster carers. However, it does raise the question about the nature of the work that foster carers do and the rights they should be entitled to. Well, we can speak now to Jimmy Johnston, the foster carer in Glasgow who's won his case. And also here is Jenny Poultney, who was in foster care from the age of 18 months, and Andy Elvin, the Chief Executive of the Adolescent and Children's Trust. Thank you so much for coming in.
No problem.
Why did you decide to take action in the first place?
Well, we didn't take the action. This was an action taken in Glasgow, so it was an action taken by Jimmy.
Why did he decide to take action?
Why did he take it? Because he felt in his particular situation that he was an employee. And having looked at the case, I would agree with him. In his particular situation, he was an employee. The council had advertised for foster carers to join into the scheme and advertised there would be a salary. And as soon as you say salary, you are impugning that there is an employer-employee relationship. But what he was doing was a very specialised programme for particular young people, and hopefully a very successful programme. But that is not what foster care generally is. Foster care generally is not being involved in that kind of specialist activity. It's looking after vulnerable children. And there is an issue with employment rights because the self-employment status is important to a lot of foster carers. They are independent of the local authority or the agency they work for. They can say no to a placement if they think it's not right for them or the child. As an employee, you have much less right to say no to a reasonable request from your manager. And there's also something magical about foster care that is lost if young people think that the person who's looking after them is looking after them because it's their job. If they then have paid holiday, what are they having holiday from? They're having holiday from me, the child. I'm so bad they need a holiday from me. It's not something that you want to say to young people. There are a lot of issues in foster care, as with many things in our society. We do not value people who care enough. And allowances for foster carers, and this is the allowance to cover the costs of raising a child, of bringing up a child in your house, often they're not high enough. The fee to pay for the expertise of the foster carer often isn't at the right level, and particularly as minimum wage goes up, this is going to be increasingly an issue. But those things can all be solved without going to an employer-employee relationship, which I think will destroy something that's magical and unique about foster care.
OK, we will come back to that, but let's now hear from Jimmy. Tell us, Jimmy, why did you bring about this case in the first place? Why did you want to be an employee?
Hello, Tina.
Hello.
Thanks, Andy, for saying some of the nice things you said about foster care. We initially took this case, it was due to a duty of care, Tina. This is a duty of care towards us as a workforce, foster care workers. We have no rights, no employee rights, no rights to representation. If anything goes wrong or if we're not happy or we complain, which we did. We had serious health and safety issues that we were worried about, both for us and our young person, and we complained, asked for support, and ultimately we were victimised, bullied and harassed. We had no other direction to go, so we actually took legal action. That's why this came about.
And just for people who don't know, how is your job as a foster carer, both of your jobs, how is that different to most other foster carers?
We're in a treatment foster care programme. We work as part of a team, and as Andy says, we do get a salary. That is what's different. Fundamentally, there is no difference, you know, because in the judgment that our tribunal has stated, which we're all still going through, the judge has stated the level of control, you know, over us as foster carers, and that's a fundamental. That's part of being a foster carer. You know, so although we have a salary, we have holidays. You know, that's slightly different, but fundamentally we're just foster carers, same as any other foster carers.
I want to bring Jenny into the conversation now. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning.
Can you tell us about your experience of growing up with foster parents?
I've had good experiences and bad experiences, mostly good. I think I was fortunate enough to find the right path, but unfortunately some of my own siblings haven't had the same opportunities that I have. And At the same time, I think when you're a child in that situation, being seen as a job is not appropriate.
Why not?
Because you feel like a job. You go into care and you want to fit in, you want to be part of a family, and to be seen as a job causes emotional difficulties.
So do you think then that people who go into foster care, some people are motivated then by money, and that's bad? And has that been your experience?
Not so much my experience, but I've seen it within my own family. I believe, you know, you take on a child, you want to have them brought up the way you would bring your own kids up, but when you are so obviously treated differently, it has an impact. It has an impact on the child, and it depends on how they're brought up, to which path they take.
Jimmy, do you understand the point that there could be, for other people, a danger of it becoming a job if you become an employee, or foster carers become employees?
It's more than a job.
How do you respond to Jenny's comments?
I'm sorry, Jenny, that you found some of it, you know, some of these things you're not happy with. There's never foster care work is the same type of work as residential care work. You know, you've got young people in residential homes, and you know they are in care. Foster care workers are doing a job just as anybody else in this country. You know, the fundamental problem is that we don't have any rights. This leads to there's a chronic shortage of foster carers in the UK. You've got to ask yourself why. You know, and it's part of these rights. You know, it's part of that.
Isn't it the point that this is a 24/7 job, that you don't just clock off at a certain time, which I'm sure you don't, but it's just but that's the difference.
Yeah, that is the difference, you know. But at the end of the day, it is a job. To help us to do our job better, we think that if we had rights, you know, to representation, we could have a better input. And the money issue is a side issue. This is about duty of care towards a set of workers. You know, you've got people leaving foster care work, but you know, just leaving because they've had enough. They're not supported. They've not got right to access to anything. They're not respected. You know, things are changing. 20, 30 years ago, provide a bed for a young person. These times have changed. We're getting some of societies, you know, the challenge behaviours we have to deal with. We're a highly skilled workforce. We have to gain professional qualifications. We're told what to do. Now that's across the board in all foster care. You know, so things have changed now, and we need help to carry out this job. As I said before, there's a chronic shortage of foster care workers, and you have to ask why.
Jimmy, Jenny, thank you for now. Andy, can you see why foster carers do need support, and they do need to have rights, sometimes the same rights that employees would have elsewhere?
Absolutely I do, and they do. I just want to correct a few things. There isn't a chronic shortage of foster carers. There is a shortage of foster carers for particular groups of children. We need more foster carers for teenagers, for 13, 14-year-olds coming into care. That can be a challenge. We need more foster carers for sibling groups. And we need more foster carers for parent and child placements, where the parent is placed with their young baby in a foster care placement. But generally, there isn't a chronic shortage of foster carers. And foster carers are, as Lord Laming said, they're heroes of the state. They do an astonishing piece of work. They do an astonishing role for young people. They transform young people's lives. And this isn't a job. They're not like residential workers. They work on shifts. You are replicating general population families. You go on holiday with your foster children, you involve your foster children in the things that you do as a family. And that's the most important thing to foster children. They feel part of something. They feel valued, they feel cared for, and they feel loved. Having an employment-employer relationship is very dangerous, because we might kill what is magical about foster care. And foster carers are independent. They can refuse placements when they are not employed. They can push back against both social workers and their fostering agency, because they are independent of us. There are mechanisms through our own agencies and through an independent reviewing mechanism for them to actually protest about actions towards them. If they work through a local authority, they can work to a local authority. They can go through the local authority complaints process the same as any employee of a local authority or anyone else can. So these things can be done. Yes, it's absolutely right that support for foster carers is not good enough in some places. Training and support needs to be better. Are allowances high enough? Generally, no. They do need to be higher.
We'll have to leave it there. Andy, thank you very
No
much.
problem.
Just want to read out one comment that's come in from Ashley on Twitter, who says, fostering shouldn't be a job, but rather a way of life. You don't put your own child into respite to go on holidays, do you? So similar point to the one that you made. A spokesman for Glasgow City Council we can give you now, who said, we are considering the terms of this decision and it would be inappropriate to comment on this specific claim at present. However, we do note that the employment judge has explicitly made clear that his findings in this case do not extend to the status of mainstream foster carers. Now, if you're flying to